What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another episode here of Just Jets, episode 239. What is going on? I am going to go through today a few different topics. We'll get into Robert Saleh giving some injury updates on the defensive side of the ball. An often criticized New York Jet steps up in a big way this past week. And of course, we'll get into your voicemails. So let's start with Robert Saleh and the injury updates. The Jets defense has not looked the same through 2 games of the NFL season so far. They got ran on at will against the San Francisco 49ers. In the first half, it was more of the same. Second half against the Tennessee Titans, it got a little bit better. Only allowed 7 points in the second half. There was a big play from Will Levis to Calvin Ridley on the right sideline, but other than that, it was much better defensively for the New York Jets in the second half of that game. So for me, again, looking at injuries now, that's going to be a really big key thing for this Thursday night game. It's a short week. I hate Thursday night football. The only Thursday games I like are Thanksgiving. Other than that, don't really care for the Thursday games. It's too quick of a turnaround. It's sloppy football. It's gross football. I don't like it. I don't think it's great. But that's maybe a rant or a video for another day. The Jets have some guys banged up on the defensive side of the ball. We know Germaine Johnson's done for the year. So that one, we don't even have to mention right now in, the injury report. Again, it sucks. I'm really upset for Germaine Johnson. It stinks. We'll get into someone, again, who stepped up in a little bit here on this episode. But there are 3 guys who all seem to be 50-50 for if they will play or not play in this game. And those guys are Michael Carter, DJ Reed, and CJ Mosley. All 3 of those guys likely will end up being game time decisions for the New York Jets on Thursday. Michael Carter played in the game, not a ton of snaps, but he played a decent amount against the Tennessee Titans in week 2. This is just an injury that scares me because you're looking at a slot corner who is going to be dealing with this ankle injury all year. Robert Saleh has discussed at length Michael Carter's injury over the last few weeks, and the wording and the verbiage used on it is it's just something he's going to have to deal with. And that means not 100% Michael Carter for pretty much the entire season. That's a really big issue for this defense. The Jets' calling card over the years on defense has been getting home with rushing just 4 and getting solid coverage from your corners. If your slot corner is not at 100%, that's a really big difference, man. That is going to make a really big difference. Then you get to DJ Reed. That was an interesting one. He was limited in practice on Wednesday a week ago, then did not practice on Friday. Sunday warms up, doesn't play in the game. Okay, so Brandon Echols comes in his spot and has a stellar game, came up with an interception. He's done a really good job of, when being called upon, coming in and making plays, and has a couple pick sixes in his career against Tua Tagovailoa, actually. 2 of them are against Tua, 1 a year ago. But Brandon Echols came in and did a really nice job, I thought, in replacing DJ Reed, but there's a chance he won't be able to go. And then you get to CJ Mosley, who is dealing with a foot or a toe injury, to be more specific. He looked a little banged up against the 49ers. He leaves and comes back. Then this past week, same thing. He goes to medical tent. So that's just, again, this is something that I think he's going to unfortunately have to play through this year. And when he was on the field in the first 2 games, he looked noticeably slower. And part of that is definitely due to his age. And, he's over 30 years old now. The football IQ and football mind is definitely still there. And he was valuable to this team the last couple of years. He's really the brain of the defense. But with CJ Mosley, I don't know if you really want him out there unless he's 100%. And a big reason for that is you had Jamien Sherwood come in and do a really nice job. And Quincy Williams and Jamien Sherwood are both very fast sideline to sideline linebackers. It looked like the Jets defense got faster. Now, faster doesn't always mean better. It helps. I would say speed helps at the linebacker position, but if you over pursue or you shoot the wrong gap, whatever example you want to give, there's a thing as being over aggressive. So you have to play within a structure. And that was something that I was very critical of Quincy Williams his first few years here. He has gotten significantly better at that. And that's why he's one of the better linebackers in football right now, because Quincy Williams has taken that step and developed. Jamie Sherwood, same thing, has gotten better year over year, had a really good training camp and preseason. So with these guys, this is kind of where I wanted to bring this conversation to. On all three of them, I would be extra careful here. And the big reason is the short week. A quick turnaround from Sunday to Thursday is always tough on injuries, but all three of these guys probably could use the extra rest because it's already like a mini bye week when you have 10 days between Thursday and then the next time you play on Sunday in week 4 against Denver. But giving those guys a little bit extra time in Carter, Reed, and Mosley, I think you could do okay with because, again, we just saw a week ago, or a few days ago, really, against Tennessee, Reed and Mosley didn't play. Well, Reed didn't play at all. Mosley did not play a big chunk of that game. And both of their replacements did fine. It showed that the depth worked in this game, and I think it could work again against the New England Patriots on Thursday. So if you're asking me right now, I would be careful with all three of them. But Reed and Mosley, I'm leaning towards not playing. Carter did play in this game on Sunday in week 2 against Tennessee. They probably give him a go. I would really think long and hard about that. I would try to get by with Jarek Bernard-Converse and Quantez Stiggers and Isaiah Oliver and whoever else you want to put out there in that slot corner spot. But I would just be careful. Again, a Carter dealing with an ankle injury is really going to be an issue all year, and giving him an additional bit of rest here might be worthwhile before you hit your real tough stretch, because right now in week 3, the Jets have New England, who's 1-1 and played really tough. In the preview yesterday, I talked about how scrappy they've been. But then you have Denver, and then the season looks like it's going to ramp up a little bit when you get into a game against the Minnesota Vikings, who are 2-0 in a few weeks in London. And then you have a huge Monday night game against Buffalo coming up after that in week 6. So I think that's really the range where I would like to see the Jets at full strength. So if you have to take your precautions now, I would rather do it at this point than later on in the year. The second thing that I wanted to get into before we do voicemails here is Will McDonald. So often criticized Will McDonald, going back to the draft pick from a year ago, 15th overall. It was really a head-scratching pick. I didn't agree with the pick, but my stance after the fact was like, we can't hold this against the player now. Like, yes, that's not the direction I wanted to necessarily see the team go, but let's see what this guy is. And a very limited role a year ago, only played 19% of snaps, but showed or flashed, at least in limited samples, that he could be a really good pass rusher. And in week 1 this year, he had to play a much bigger role, clearly, because there's no Hassan Reddick and no John Franklin Myers. So he was asked to play a bigger opportunity, and he was not very good. The whole defensive line in general wasn't very good against the San Francisco 49ers. So it's tough to just single out one guy and be like, you were the problem. But for the New York Jets and for Will McDonald, him being a top 15 pick, he's going to get a lot of eyeballs, and fans really ripped into him because he didn't do anything in that game. Well, that all changed in week 2 when Will McDonald gets 3 sacks and 4 pressures in a 24-17 win to get the Jets on the board. And what's really but what adds to how impressive the performance was, he did it in the absence of Germaine Johnson. Germaine Johnson goes down with an injury, and on the final drive, Jets need to get a stop. Who is it coming up with the big sack on 3rd down to force a 4th and goal from a much longer distance? It's Will McDonald. And on the turnover, the just absolutely insane fumble that Will Levis had, who was the one getting the sack? And technically, I guess a strip sack if it's a fumble, right? Will McDonald. And he got another one. And something that was really good was Robert Saleh spoke on Will McDonald after the game. And here's the quote that I want to share. I thought a couple of his sacks, or at least one of them, he ran right through that right tackle. So if he continues to develop that, he will be a double-digit sack guy in the league. The issue with Will McDonald is the weight right now. He isn't playing at a weight that the Jets feel comfortable with. And Saleh has been critical of Will McDonald to put on the weight and to learn to use more power. Everyone knows about the spin move. Everyone knows that he's really bendy around the edge. He is going to rack up sacks that way. But if he adds this extra element to his game, that's what brings him from a situational pass rusher to a more regular down player. I think he still has a lot of work to do in the run game. I don't think he's a finished product. This was his first really big game, but it's a positive sign when the Jets needed him the most. So again, I think it's important to shout that out because he's gotten so much hate from this fan base, and a lot of it, I would say a lot of it undeserved. I think most of the hate stems from the issue with the general manager or coach, whoever you want to pin it on, making the selection than it actually does Will McDonald, the player. Because Will McDonald, the player, when called upon last year, served his role fine, even though he was further down on the pecking order. And through 2 games, it's been good. And looks like, unless they're getting a change, he looks like the favorite to lead the team in sacks for right now. Again, maybe, Quinnen Williams could hit his stride. I'm not worried about Quinnen. He's taken up a lot of, double teams on the interior and opening things up for the pass rushers on the outside. Maybe Hassan Reddick reports at some point and just goes off. Like, there's so many variables to this, but if you're just looking at what we have now, Will McDonald is going to have to be their sack artist and their closer. We know when he was drafted, Robert Saleh called him a game wrecker, and that's what he was. We finally got to see that in week 2 against Tennessee. So I'm happy for him. That made me feel good watching that game. So good on Will McDonald, man. Good stuff. Hopefully he continues it against the New England Patriots this week. All right, let's get into voicemails. We start from the Ways up in Boston.
Boston, Massachusetts. Larry, first-time caller here. It's the Waz from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm giving you a call today because, man, I'm watching this team play, and we come into this season filled with hope. And I'm always saying this season's going to go one of 2 ways. One, we're going to sit there. Aaron is going to go out there, throw the ball around. We're going to look like a complete team, and we're going to make our way into the playoffs. Or we're going to sit here and end up firing everybody. And that's okay. I've been a fan for 30 years. I get it. I know that with this team comes these frustrating moments. My problem today is why are we going into shotgun on 3rd and 1, waiting for the clock to go all the way down, giving the opposition the time to jump the snap and stuff us every time? Why is our offense so predictable? Why is our defense struggling to get that pass rush? And now with Germaine, what are we doing? It's frustrating because I feel like the weaknesses of this team are in leadership, the general manager, the coaching, not the players. We have the talent. We just don't know what to do with that talent. So it's making me feel like we're kind of heading towards, hey, we're going to show up, but I don't know if we're going to be able to have the right mindset from the coaching staff moving forward to get these games where we need to be. Anxious to hear what you have to think about, especially with the clocks going down, the clock management, and some of these offensive calls. Why did it take us so long to get the play in, to get the play determined, to get us going across the line of scrimmage? Huge fan.
Thank you.
As always, go Jets.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for checking in there. I get the frustration from both sides with both the offense and the defense and just everything that you just laid out there. On the play call, I think it's a mix of them taking too long in the huddle and getting up to the line, but also the play call not coming in. Like, that was an issue for them last year. Rodgers wants to get up to the line and diagnose things. So if that's the case, they got to get up there earlier, man. So some of that, you gotta say some of it's on the 20-year veteran. At the same time, like, it was an issue with Hackett a year ago. So he's not blame free in any of this. It does, some of it does fall on Nathaniel Hackett, and I get it. There's still a lot to be desired with this head coach and with this coaching staff in general. I don't know what the move is after the Germaine Johnson injury. It's a big blow. It is. He was huge for them last year. He was their best run defender after John Franklin Myers leaves, and now he's gone. So Jets have some work cut out for them, I think. And I don't know if they are the right guys. This year, for me, is a really big test for both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, both those guys, to see if they are the answer here. So we'll see. This is what we're going to be going through this all year. I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs, but let's see how they continue to build off these first 2 weeks. Let's go to Jay Sean calling from Syracuse.
Yo, this is Jay Sean, part 2. From Syracuse, New York, upstate all day. And I was wondering, well, first of all, we had a crazy game, hard fought, but we pulled it out. But my number one issue with the game, and what I want your opinion on, is the Germaine Johnson situation. I just can't get over the fact that Germaine is actually injured. This was supposed to be a year that he was supposed to step up, especially with Hassan Reddick not playing. He could have proved that we didn't need Hassan Reddick. I mean, Germaine Johnson had a horrible first game. I'm not going to say he had the best game this game, but he got a tackle for loss. I mean, I don't know where to start. Do you think we should sign Hassan Reddick now? Go get another edge rusher maybe? Because I don't know if this D-line going to do too well against actual offensive lines like we've seen with the 49ers. Hopefully we can see how they do against the Patriots, but as of right now, I'm leaning towards signing Hassan Reddick. I'm also leaning towards not firing the coaches, but stripping a lot of situations, just taking a lot of pressure off the coaches. Like, I don't think Hackett should be play calling at all, but at the same time, I don't think Saleh should be making the formations and all those things. I feel like somebody else should be doing it. I feel like Hackett proved to us already that he can't do his job. And Saleh, I don't even know. He's just a robot just a robot. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for checking in with us here. On the play calling, the only other option that I think you have is to go to Todd Downing. They did some Todd Downing work in training camp. I think that's a ripcord, like, in case of emergency. I don't think they're quite there yet. Saleh, again, is going to struggle to win people over until he improves his in-game management. The defense, I think, is going to get better as the year goes on, and I know that might sound hypocritical after, I've taken issue with how the defensive line is right now, the state of the D-line, but Saleh, Ulbrich, White Cotton, the whole staff has shown time and time again that they deserve the benefit of the doubt on that side of the football. The thing that scares you with Saleh is if he's the guy in a tight game who can make the right decisions and push the right buttons. That is still very much so TBD. I'm in on bringing Hassan Reddick in. I don't know if it's just Joe Douglas not wanting to budge off his original stance. I don't know if it's ownership not wanting to fork over any additional capital for this year. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think anyone does right now. But both sides right now, from the Jets standpoint and Hassan Reddick, feel very, very stubborn and just dead set on this is the way that they want to go about it. And I don't know if there's an end in sight, truly. So I hope there is, though. Let's go to Jake from Jersey. He wants to talk some Brandon Echols. All right.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Jake from Jersey. Just wanted to say, nice team win. Team defense started to lock it down on second half, it was nice to see McDonald finally get going. But I was going to say, I wonder what the percentages of games started by Brendan Eccles that he has an interception in. It's got to be pretty high. But anyway, man, looking on to Thursday night, I'll be at that game, so it'll be
nice.
sick, but go Jets.
Yeah, enjoy the game. Very excited to see what the atmosphere at MetLife Stadium looks like. So if you're going, please make sure to enjoy the game tomorrow night. It's going to be a blast. For Eccles, he makes plays. He has 4 career interceptions in 16 starts. He has started 16 games in his NFL career, 4 picks, a couple pick sixes against Tua. Obviously, the real acrobatic one that he made against Tennessee a week ago. And it's, the last time we saw him really have to play a bigger role was against Miami a year ago, where he came up with the pick 6, and then this past week where he came up with a big interception. So Eccles making plays when it counts, which is exciting. Vic from Florida's next. He wants to talk about winning ugly.
Matt, what's going on, man? It's Vic from Florida. Look, man, I'd rather you got to win ugly. Rather win ugly than lose pretty, I guess. I don't know what's going to happen with our defense. If I'm Hassan Reddick and company, I'm running to the bank. I'm ready to cash a check. And if Joe Douglas doesn't boss up, if Woody Johnson doesn't, give the okay, or whoever makes the calls, right? We're hurting. Mosley went down. DJ Reed not playing. Right now, Germaine Johnson out for the rest of the year. It's rough. Defense looked pretty shaky again. I mean, I'm nervous for Thursday night. Another short week, another excuse. Who knows what old Bobby Saleh can put together for us, this week. Offensively, man, I felt we looked good when we needed to look good. Aaron, again, taking steps forward, Doesn't help that we only got the ball twice pretty much the whole first half. But on to the next. I've got to turn the page. Like I said, short week. Got the Patriots coming to town. I do not want to get embarrassed on Thursday Night Football again. I just can't do it.
Nope.
Can't do it. But either way, man, I'm happy with the win. Like I said, better win ugly than lose pretty. But man, I appreciate everything you do. Like I said, long-time listener. Had season tickets when I was a kid. I'm a little older than you, a couple years older, but like I said, grew up in Jersey. Had season tickets. I remember as far back as the Boomer Esiason days. So yeah, man. So appreciate what you do. Hopefully we get a good W this week. All right, God bless. See ya.
Thank you. Looking forward to this upcoming game against New England, and we haven't spent a ton of time on this New England game yet, but since you brought it up, I think this game is going to be tougher than some are making it out to be. The Jets are 6.5-point favorites in this game, which is a pretty big number, honestly. For a divisional game, the Jets are home opener. I think the Jets will win. But are they going to win by a touchdown? I hope they do. I hope they blow the doors off them. That's what I would love to see. 40-10, great, please. I would love to see that kind of performance. I don't think that's how it's going to play out, though. I think this is more of like a 24-20 kind of game. Like low scoring. Pat's defense is very, very stingy against the run. They're susceptible against the pass. At least they were a week ago against Seattle and Geno Smith. Offensively, they love to run the ball. Ramondre has given the Jets struggles in the past. I think he could have a big game in this one. Jacoby Brissett has also looked good against the Jets each of the last 2 seasons. Last year with Washington, 2 years ago with Cleveland. I don't think this is a cakewalk. I don't think the Jets are going to roll out there and, it's going to be like some homecoming game and it's 24-0 at the half and, Rodgers is essentially not playing or just handing it off in the third quarter and then the backups come in and it's like a 38-3 final. I don't see it playing out that way. Again, I think for me, how I would expect this to go is a lower scoring game, but from the Jets side, with how New England's been against the run, this is probably the week to let Rodgers air it out a little bit. And as I said in my preview video for the game, This is not going to be a Jets team that like they're going into the game with the plan of Rodgers throwing it 45 times. If they get down big and have to come back, might there be weeks where he has to throw the ball 45 times? Yeah, but I don't think that's going to be their plan, right, going in. But he's thrown, what was it, 21 times in week 1, 30 times last week. Can you throw 35? Can you up that number to 35 or the high 30s? Maybe this might be the week for that. That's my thought on it. Anyway, let's go to James up next from New Jersey. Wants to talk some Hackett.
Yo, what's up, Matt? This is James, Brick, New Jersey. I wanted to talk a little bit about Nathaniel Hackett.
Sure.
And the play calling of this team right now, and whether you think that we're going to be able to get it done with Hackett at the helm of this offense, because obviously during the 1 o'clock slate, I just had strictly the Jets game on, and I was watching that game. Then after we won the game, I threw Red Zone on the TV, and I'm watching some of these other teams, some of these other offenses. For example, I was watching the Houston, the Sunday night game, and seeing all this, motion that they're involving in their offense and all these different things that we're doing. And, up-and-coming team like the Cardinals who absolutely destroyed the Rams, and I just watch our offense, and it feels so vanilla and so predictable, and it's really frustrating. Sometimes I wonder, if we had, a guy that, had a more creative scheme, like what this offense truly could look like if they unlocked their fullest potential. And so I'm wondering, what are your opinions on Hackett, and how far do you think we can go with him? Do you think he puts a cap on our potential? Thanks for taking the call, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair point to bring up, and I don't want to come off as a Nathaniel Hackett defender because I don't think he's done a great job. To try to give you some positives here. So I don't think the Jets have really hit their stride offensively just yet. But in each of their first 2 games, they have scored 3 offensive touchdowns in each of them. 6 touchdowns to their first two games. They are one of only 10 teams in the NFL who has 5 or more touchdowns at this point in the season. The Jets have scored, or last year in a 17-game season, they scored 3 offensive touchdowns just twice on the entire year. So the fact that they've already done it in both of their games is really, again, a positive sign. And, the bar last year was very, very low. Saleh essentially said, like, it's a race to 20 points. That was the infamous line in the Vegas game. And there were so many games last year where the Jets didn't hit 20 points. They were under that. And they hit it this past week. Last week they came just under. They scored 19, but they went for 2 a couple times and didn't get it. But 3 offensive touchdowns. So they are definitely in a much more positive spot, in my opinion, than when they were a year ago. Here's some of the numbers. They scored 20 points or more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times last year. So 10 times the Jets scored less than 20 points. Man, that's ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly stuff. I was trying to look and see if they had turnovers. They have turnovers. I was looking to see if it was, you could just look quick and see numbers of touchdowns. They have points, obviously, but touchdowns is what I would like to see. But there's a lot of games here where their total yards, like 171 against New England, 155 against the Bills on the road, 159 against the Dolphins, 103 against the Dolphins. Like, I don't think we'll see anything close to those kind of performances. And clearly, like, you want the Jets to be a playoff team, but Hackett does scare me. I'm not going to lie to you, but I think they've been okay. They're 10th or 11th in EPA right now for offenses in the league. I think you take that. Let's go to Neil up next from Jersey City. He wants to talk about the defense after losing C.J. Mosley.
Hey, what's up, Matt? This is Neil from Jersey City. Hope all is well. Happy Victory Monday. Calling you on Victory Monday, which is super exciting. First time in our 2024 season. I just got to say, I mean, what a difference it is having Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback versus Zach Wilson. I mean, you could just see, like, having Zach Wilson yesterday, we would have definitely lost that game. There's, to me, no doubt in my mind. I mean, you talk about that last scoring drive, Rodgers dropping in the bucket to Wilson, Mike Williams' big catch. I believe that was on that drive.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, there's no way that Zach Wilson makes those throws. And really, that's just such a huge difference, again, between a win and a loss. So that's fantastic. A couple questions for you here. One, notice, of course, C.J. Mosley going out.
Actually, can I pause this for a second? Neil, I'm going to play the rest of your voicemail in a second, but what you were just saying there, great point on the final drive, talking about the two throws that he made, the Garrett Wilson one on 3rd and 1, and then the 2nd and 16 throw on the left sideline that picked up a first down. We also have to point out the Braylon Allen touchdown run was an Aaron Rodgers audible. He audibled to that after seeing, was it the safety come down? Or it must have been. The safety came down and they audibled to a run to the right side. Zach Wilson's not doing that. Tim Boyle's not doing that. Trevor Siemian's not doing that. But having an elite quarterback or an elite mind still at the quarterback spot really makes a big difference. Sorry to cut you off, but just that was on my mind. I want to toss that out there. Now to the defensive side of the question.
It looks like he's dealing with a toe injury. I just feel like after he went out and Quincy Williams took his place there at the inside linebacker position, the defense to me looked a lot better. And I'm wondering if that is a change that the Jets should look into permanently. And I'm not saying to bench C.J. Mosley necessarily, but I don't know if you find a way to kind of restructure the defense, because truly their run defense especially looked a lot better. And from what I've seen in the first game and then the first part of this game, the Tennessee game, is that CJ, he looks a bit slow, like a step behind. And I think that's kind of impacting the defense. Curious to your thoughts on that. The second question I have for you, and I'm sure you're going to be getting a lot of questions like this, but I'm curious, with Germaine Johnson's injury, how does that impact the Reddick situation? Does Douglas now, do you think, makes a hardcore press to say, listen, we just need to get this guy in there. I don't care what it takes. Like, I'm done, with this kind of holding pattern. We're kind of going to drop our guard and do what we need to do to get him in the building? Or do you think that they maybe approach another route? I don't know if there's any viable free agent options, if it's a trade with another team. But I really think that this defensive line is getting very thin, and it needs to be addressed one way or the other. Thanks so much, and go Jets.
Yeah, you're right about the defensive line. So I would really, really hope the Jets think long and hard about trying to get Haason Reddick in here this week, meaning not that he would play on Thursday, but to have that time trying to ramp up for week 4, maybe, and that might even be optimistic, but I would really hope so. External options, did a video on it yesterday, discussed via trade Jadeveon Clowney. Like, does he want to stick around with that Carolina situation this year? They look absolutely awful. Azeez Ojulari with the Giants, like, if they continue to fall out of this thing, could the Jets maybe try to trade for him? We've seen the Jets and Giants trade before at the deadline with Leonard Williams. Free agents, Shaq Lawson, who was a Jet in 2021. Carl Lawson's on the practice squad of the Cowboys. Yannick Ngakoue is still kicking around. There's not a ton of great options. Romeo Okwara is another one. There's not a ton of great options. So the easiest is just getting Haason in here, but I don't know if that's actually the easiest. And then for your Mosley point, I definitely do think they looked faster. And as I mentioned in the monologue at the start of the show, I think it both has to do with him being hurt, number one, and then the second part of that is him just being another year older. I would hold him out. I don't think I would play C.J. Mosley this game against New England. I would try to get him right for their tougher stretch of games coming up. Let's go to Travis calling from Ohio. What do you got, buddy?
Hey, Matt. Travis from Ohio. Hey, buddy. I know you need pass rush, and I was a huge lover of them. And I called in last week, and it was after the deadline, but Bryce Huff has one recorded assisted tackle. Not even for a loss. So, guess what? They're overpaying him $1 million a game because he's making $17 million. And Braden Mann, our former punter, is outplaying him on the Eagles team because he was awesome. So that's your finding grace moment right there. So go Jets. Love you. Bye.
Thank you, Travis. Yeah, and this is not me saying this is what Travis was doing, but just the overall thing. Like, I've seen a lot of people bring up Bryce Huff, and he hasn't looked good, like flat out. He hasn't looked very good in his first two games with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not ready to victory lap Bryce Huff as like the Jets made this great decision. They were right to not pay him that money. He's a bust for the Eagles, this and that. Because one, he can get better as the year goes on. That's possible. But even if that deal doesn't work out, we know that he fit here with the Jets. And the Jets' replacement for Bryce Huff is doing workout videos at Temple the last we saw him, and not here with the Jets. So still frustrating. I think both, maybe the Eagles and the Jets have a little buyer's remorse. Let's go to PG from Long Island to close us out.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. It's PG from Long Island here. Couple things. One, great win for the Jets, obviously.
There you go.
Overcoming a slow start and some adversity. Having some vintage Aaron Rodgers and pulling off the win on the road. Great job. Second thing I want to say is I think we need to call Denver. Take that third-round pick that we picked up in the draft this year. Maybe
I know where this is
Watts,
going.
and get John Franklin Myers back. And the reason for that is I don't think that we're going to get Hassan Reddick play for us this year, and here's why. Listen, the Jets had an agreement with him. Joe Douglas had an agreement, and the best evidence for that, in my opinion, is that April 1st news conference. If you look at that, Hassan Reddick was on board. Look at that and tell me he wasn't on board, because he was. Something changed, and now Reddick and his team are treating Joe Douglas like they were Flounder in the movie Animal House. They said to him, "You fucked up. You trusted us." And basically now, the Jets made, they tried to enhance, increase his contract a little bit before they signed him. Didn't work out. Whatever they offered, a little increased salary, some incentives, whatever, I don't know. But it didn't work out, and he agreed to come to the Jets and play, and then figure it out. So that changed. So now, from everything I can tell, he's looking for $25 million a year for 3 years. Well, the Jets are not going to pay him that, and they shouldn't, and nobody's going to pay him that. He's 30 years old. Based on his production at the tail end of last year, it could be in decline. And now, that's where we are. He's looking for $25 million for 3 years. The Jets obviously could negotiate, try and get something in between that, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the Jets are going to have to go with the young studs that they have, maybe adjust their defense a little bit and blitz more. But it's an unfortunate situation. I still think we can survive with our much better offense than we've had in the past, make some defensive adjustments, and still be a contender. As always, Matt O'Leary, go Jets.
Thank you, PG. Yeah, I haven't heard any, like, this is what Hassan Reddick is looking for other than just fan speculation. The contract I was pulling up is a comparison one that I bring up often on here, but Danielle Hunter's 2-year deal at 2 years, $49 million. That's a $24.5 million AAV. And his cap hit is, let's see, for 2024, it's 13.7, and then the following year is 23.7, and then there's a void year of 12.6 after that. Obviously, you want to avoid some of those void years, but I think there's a way for the Jets to get it to a point where, because they have the cap space to work with it. They have 18 million in cap space, which is a big difference. 17.9, which, I mean, you round up, it's basically 18 million. It's one of the most in the NFL right now. If they don't bring in Hassan Reddick, I think they have to add something else, because Will McDonald had himself a really nice game in week 2. The other guys, I don't know if they're ready for the bigger roles yet. In a win now year, I don't want to see Braden McGregor or Eric Watts playing a ton of snaps. They weren't supposed to be this team's like 3rd and 4th edge rusher. They were supposed to be like, guy number 52 and 53 on the roster. So that changes things, obviously. Because now, you look at it with no Germaine Johnson, it's Will McDonald, Michael Clemens, Tack McKinley, and Braden McGregor as their top 4 edges. Is that enough to be a Super Bowl team or playoff team? I would think good enough to be a playoff team. They're going to need those guys to develop real quick if they want to be a true contender, I think. But maybe a story for another day. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to episode 239 of the Just Jets podcast. I'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully talking about a New York Jets win at the home opener. But enjoy if you are going to the game tomorrow night. That'll do it for me. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you next time.